Hi everyone, we're at South End about to record our podcast with Ashish Shrestha, who is a finance exec with 25 years of experience. So let's get this started. Party. Ashish Shrestha, record gardiनु हो त?
Of course, let's do it. Bye,
Wow.
Mana.
I see you in a bit, Mana. Well, are you excited?
Very excited. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for hosting, actually. Thank you for coming over. Okay, cheers.
Cheers.
So, welcome to SKS Media. Today's special guest is Ashish Shrestha. He's actually a finance exec with 25 plus years of experience. Don't want to take his spotlight, but just to kick it off,
Sure.
should you just give a quick background for the viewers who don't know you? Anything out of it? Just
Thank you, Shrestha. I came to the US in 1996 to attend Ohio Wesleyan University. I graduated in accounting with a minor in math, business, and economics. And then I started working at Deloitte in Boston in their audit practice, and then moved on to consulting side, like in corporate restructuring, helped like companies through bankruptcies and also like mid-market turnarounds. Navigated like these companies through many different situations and complexities. And then later on in my career, I joined WilliamsMarston, where I helped build their strategic finance practice, basically helping private equity backed like mid-market companies through like M&As and transformations. And now like I found my true passion, like helping my wife, who I met in Deloitte, build her like a bakery brand called Petit Sakura.
wow. Ashish, like you just threw in so much buzzwords. I almost blacked out right now. I was like, so many things going on, you know. But I think there's so much to debrief.
Yeah.
But before we even talk about a US IRO journey, let's talk a little bit about before US. What's in Nepal, just a quick snapshot on just growing up in Nepal, Costa Theo, like schooling a little bit, and then what?
Sure. So like I grew up in in Kathmandu, right? So right in Jammu, I went to a boarding school called Buran High School, like starting in fourth grade, and it was a very nurturing environment, making friends with like the communities like across Nepal, and a lot of people from my class, like from the Buran school, came to the U.S. So it was like a path was already built for me. I did the A levels there, and then and then I came to Ohio Wesleyan University.
Wow, and this was 1996.
Yeah,
4 years before I was born.
I know, you can see how old I am now.
Sweet 16. So, what made you decide you wanted to come to US?
Like many young people at that time, right? So I was trying to figure out what to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, and what attracted me to the U.S. is the liberal arts colleges.
Wow.
So Buran School had this like a really good environment, even back then in 1996, a lot of students had already gone to the U.S. There was a guidance counselor who used to help us find schools, and at that time, for people like me who didn't know what to do, like the liberal arts education seemed like an obvious choice. Also that this seemed very attractive.
I mean, when you say liberal arts, if you could just expand a little bit.
Sure, the liberal arts, schools are are smaller, typically smaller schools, which don't focus on one specific technical subject matter, but you take classes in many different disciplines, philosophy and sociology, right? So psychology, besides the hard sciences, math, business, right, economics. And then in 2 years down the road, you pick one of your majors, right? So I didn't have to pick a major right away, right? Coming to freshman, and I still had 2 years to pick a major.
So that's what you wanted on a US mindset. That's what they provided.
Right, exactly.
On Buran Kontama, when you were doing your A levels, did you know like what you wanted to do, or at least some idea?
So
what did that look like?
I thought like I wanted to do something in business or economics, but I didn't like, but business and economics, like it seems like one area, but it's vast, right? There are so many things you can do, like, so like I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So, and then I also wanted to explore like what else is around. So like and Ohio Wesleyan was like great for me, to discover myself. Right. So, I would have never expected like I would have ever majored in accounting, like being in Brandon High School.
But how did you? Okay, so let's talk about transition from Brandon Contabada, US, right? So how did you end up at Ohio?
So
what's the story behind this?
Obviously being a Nepali student, right? So like I was looking for some scholarships, and then like my parents were also like were steering me towards like the schools and like the away from the big cities, like Ohio being in the middle of like cornfields, right? not my specific choice, but like it was attractive to my parents, and then they gave me generous like scholarships, like and that was a really good choice for me.
Wow. So okay, Ohio Pugos.
Yeah.
US Pugnuwa. So first impressions. So because I bet there's always culture shocks and biggest all these differences. So what was your first impression like? So
let me describe you how Delaware, Ohio is, right? So this was a small town with like 8,000 population, right? So it's a small town. A lot of blue collars, and like and some professors who live in town, right? So half the town's populations were like not half, the quarter of the population were the Ohio Wesleyan students. There are like 2,000 students in Ohio Wesleyan. So it was definitely a big culture shock for me. Like when I thought about the U.S. at that time, right? You think about big cities like L.A. and New York. Right, not like Boston, right? Not like middle of nowhere, like in Ohio, in Delaware, Ohio,
right?
But like it was at first it was a big culture shock, but I also appreciated like being in that environment, how I was able to build all these relationships and make all these friendships.
What do you mean, as in?
Like make like friends with many different students from different countries, like because you didn't have like a lot of things to do outside of the school. You just had to like depend on each other and like make friends and keep yourself entertained.
I see, because I think more campus vibes, you're meeting everyone again and again. There's not a lot of different people, especially if it's schools like Suffolk's or BU. It's big, right, smack up in the city. I think it's harder to make friends there than campus life.
Yep. And I still keep in touch with many of my friends. Like it's really awesome for me.
So now you're on campus, right? All these culture shocks happen. What from there? So
there's already a bunch of Nepali students there, like some from Burlington High School, like and coincidentally my best friend from my elementary school, like who I had lost touch with, like was in Ohio Wesleyan. Somehow we ended up in the same school, right? So it was a little bit of an easier transition for me to have some friends already in there, like and because they were able to help me navigate the school systems and how to pick your major, and then what dorms to live in, right? All those like the things like you don't know, like coming as a foreign student, right? So coming to the US, like they helped me a lot, and I'm really, really appreciative of that.
So when did you decide you wanted to do accounting, or how did you end up?
I did not want to do accounting, but like one of my really good friends, like who was also a Nepali guy, like from Burlington High School, is like, it's like, you have to major in accounting. It's really easy to find jobs. You have to go to Big Four, right? So,
and this is also what year? Freshman year,
freshman year, like the sophomore year, and I still did not know what I wanted to do. And my guidance counselor was an accounting professor too, and and I think those guys like steered me towards accounting. 8 o'clock classes doing debits and credits. That was it was tough for me to to like the past that phase of my my life, like doing accounting. But what attracted me was like working for like big four accounting firms, because like I knew that was going to open many doors for me. So it was more of a means to an end than like than like doing accounting. That's why I majored in accounting.
So you majored in accounting. Did you do masters as well after undergrads? Or
I did not.
Right, so undergrads.
Only undergrad.
What about any internships during that time before we move on to?
I did not do any internships like that. I think I should have, but like when I was there's some disadvantages of going to liberal arts schools. Like if you go to like the major like the universities with like the well-established programs, right? So like the colleges come there to recruit, right? So you know about internships. Now Ohio Wesleyan is like the school with like 2,000 students,
right?
And business and economics businesses or accounting is not a popular major there, right? So we had maybe about 20 students in accounting, right? So like the firms, a lot of firms don't come to recruit. Right. There's not a well-established program, so like you have to do a lot on your own. And I have to tell you a story about how I got recruited at Deloitte. So I didn't do an internship. And then and it was like my spring semester of my graduating year. I still didn't have a job. And I was calling firms, right? I was like, I cold called Deloitte's Boston office and said, hey, I'm coming to Boston for spring break. Everyone, as you know, for spring break, everyone goes to warm places. I'm coming to Boston, And I said like that, and they agreed to meet me. And
so
then
even before that, how did you find their number? How did you end up cold calling them?
I just looked it up like in the telephone at that time.
Because like LinkedIn, it's different.
There's no LinkedIn. I think I don't know even if there's a Google at that time. There's Yahoo. I think I just like looked it up like on telephone directory or like the Yahoo, and then like found that number and then this cold called.
What made you wanna how did that idea come in the first place to cold call? It's not a normal thing, right?
No.
So
I was struggling to find a job at that time in Ohio, and one of my professors suggested, hey, maybe you should try looking into the East Coast, right? So those are bigger cities, that are bigger markets, and you came from all the way from Nepal. Like, look for try what's out there, go explore, and that's why and Boston, I'd never been to Boston before,
right?
But I had many friends in Boston, from my high school. So so I actually drove all the way from Ohio to here.
So originally you called the guy from Deloitte, and then from there,
and then so there's an HR person. She interviewed me and said okay, we'll bring you back for the second round of interview, and suddenly that's what I was expecting. But I got a call from her after a week or so saying that you got the job.
Just like that?
Yeah, she was like, oh, we've never done this before, but but we liked you, and and we'll offer you a job. But during the same trip, I also interviewed with a firm in New York who also offered me a job as well. But it was a startup, so it was like I didn't have anything online, right? In line, coming to the spring semester, couple of months from graduation, and just the stars aligned when I came to the East Coast, right? So I got within 1 week I got 2 jobs, right? So but I decided to stick with Deloitte because it's I thought it'll be a good platform to start my career rather than startup where I don't know processes and stuff like that. So
let's dig in a little bit deeper on the decision that Deloitte made, right?
Yeah.
Because they said, "Oh, we've never done this before, and we like you," but just because they like you doesn't mean they give a job right away, right? So if we dig in one layer, I'd say, like, do you think, if you think back, if there was anything that really stood out that made them go, "Oh, like this is why"?
I think like when people interview candidates, I think they hire people they can connect with you, right? Rather than more than like your skill sets and that at least my opinion, right? So is this person I can work with, right? I think I did make that good connection, good impression in my in the first impression, and I think that worked out for me.
That's so cool. Okay, so you started at Deloitte now.
Yeah.
First professional journey in US. So let's hear the story from there.
Yeah. So I did as I mentioned, I was doing the audit group, right? So like with audit, the way it works is that you get trained for like the week or two, and then you throw you into the client, like the situations, like you go audit the books and records, like you understand the processes, right? So it was a really good helped me build really good foundational skills for me.
Right.
It was still not very exciting for me, but like it was a really good experience for me, and then also met my wife Kyoko at the time. She was working at Deloitte as well.
Oh, like this is right after you started.
She joined a year later.
Oh wow! So this is straight out of rom-com.
Yeah, and then she loved like the cooking and baking from since then, right? So so like I did that, and then
just to dig in a little bit deeper on what that exact role looked like.
Yeah.
Like what was your day to day, Titi Bela? Your first few years.
So for people who do not know what audit is, right? So it's so all the public companies and many private companies who have public debt, like you have to release your financial statements once a year, right? And that has to be audited by a CPA firm, right? So
CPA, CA
is similar. Yes, and then like the audit is like going through your like financial statements to make sure that like the reasonable basis that these numbers are accurate. So what you do is like you design tests, right? So sample testing, or you do analytical testing to make sure that the numbers are reasonable. You're not validating it's 100% accurate, but it's like on a reasonable basis, right?
Which is like
like there are some testing. There are some like test methods, like like statistics, like they're like 95%, like the standard deviation, like
pretty, as long as it's close to it. It's
exactly. That's the thing. Right. So so you make sure it's reasonable, and then the financial statements get issued, and then you move on to your next client. Right. So it's a good exposure for you because you can see many different industries in a short period of time, and you get access to senior, like the finance executives, CFOs, and controllers, like at a young age, right? So which like really widen my like the horizons and like in my experience.
Like when you first started it, like what was your thought process like on what the role or accounting would look like? I mean, because you mentioned it broadened your horizon, right? And in what way did it broaden it?
So the when I went to an audit, like I had no idea, like all these different industries, and then like working through them, like I got an opportunities to work on a lot of like hedge funds and private equity clients, right? And then and then one of my clients was this distressed like the hedge fund, and like working with them, and that really like intrigued my mind about the corporate restructuring, right? And that brought me to like learn more about corporate restructuring and move on to the corporate restructuring group within Deloitte, which is not easy, like moving through the different groups within Deloitte, but like it worked out for me, and then I found like true passion there, like the helping like companies, like the like distressed companies, like the companies in crisis, like navigate them through like the ultimate chaos, right? So like how do you like I've been into situations where like we walked into situations where like we found out after 2 days of like looking at their books, like and doing some analysis, that they will not be able to pay their like the payroll in 2 weeks, right?
Wow,
I mean that's a dire strait. So you're about to die, right? How do you?
But die isn't like bankrupt. You're gonna go bankrupt,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. You will not be able to pay your employees.
So
so you need to assess the situation and figure out how to do the best you can in those situations, right? So can you get more loans from the bank at that time, or banks will not be able to trust you at that time, but how do you build that trust so that they can lend you some more money so they can get a few weeks of more like the leeway, or like can you make some cuts right now? What like the payments or creditors you can pay and who you cannot pay, right? So you make all these many different decisions in like the.
So I'm thinking, right? Because you were in audit, eventually you went to corporate restructuring, then found your passion in dealing with like distressed clients. So timelines is, so how long did you work in Deloitte for? And
so
what was the timeline from when you started from audit till?
I started in audit in 2000, and then I moved to corporate restructuring in 2005.
Okay.
And I stayed there for 14 years until 2019.
In corporate restructuring?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and then a lot of that time I worked on like the on like Lehman Brothers bankruptcy, which is the biggest. 2008. 2008. I spent a lot of time working on that bankruptcy, but that's the largest bankruptcy ever filed in the U.S. by far. And we had hundreds of people working from Deloitte, like in this role.
So I don't know if there's an NDA or not, but
I don't think I will not delve too much. But yeah.
Wow. Okay, so corporate restructuring, you stayed there for a while.
Yeah.
I know 2005 the hit, 2019 somehow. So how did you know that that's what you wanted to do? Because you said you found your passion there, but like, what made you go like, oh yeah, this is the aha moment for you?
It's what I liked about corporate restructuring is
actually, what is corporate restructuring for a lot of viewers that don't even know? Actually, I don't know too much about it.
So all the companies go through cycles, right? So like you grow, you start a startup and then you mature, and at a certain point, like your products may not be as popular, or you may get some external shocks like a war or oil prices spiking up, and then your business may not be viable anymore. You may not be able to make profit anymore. You may not be able to operate, as a viable business, and then things, and then and things go south, right? So, and a lot of times also, like in my experience, like working with these corporate companies, is that many of them are like the middle market companies, family backed, right? And then the families have like the skill sets to grow the companies to a certain scale, and after that they don't have skill sets and they've become too big, like it's too big for them to handle. And then like you don't manage your debt properly, and then in some situations your son-in-law gets involved, right? So
has there been any situation?
And then they keep on they keep on expanding too fast, like into markets like they're not familiar with, and then they cannot transition the same level of success into these new markets, and then once you have too many unprofitable businesses, and then the stress hits, right? You're not able to pay the debt, and then they will bring like professionals like us, like me, like to like the assess the situations and help them make the best decisions going forward.
So that's when they're in a distressed condition.
Yeah.
Okay, so wow, I was gonna keep this एकदम general, but because I'm curious and I want to know, so we're gonna talk. Let's dig a little bit deeper, right? No, so you know how you said companies or family-backed ventures, they started growing and scaling, and ultimately they scale so fast and big that they don't even know how to manage it. So when do you even know that, oh, you're growing too fast? Like, what should you do, Teti Bella? Because instead of waiting till you're distressed and then hire Deloitte or other consulting firms, like, how do you mitigate that?
I mean, if you have a good, like the CFO or the board, like them, I think they will be able to like bring some sense to the leadership, to them, and said, hey, we need to do something, right? So we need to course correct, but that doesn't happen very often, right? So they think they can control it, they have a good handle of the situation, and then like
usually
we get brought like too late in the game, right?
Most of the time.
And then it's always a chaos, right? And then like you try to do your best, like to salvage as much as possible. Like in certain situations where I've worked with retail stores, right? So usually we don't have a lot of time, right? You cannot change strategy, right? It's more tactical.
And when you say you can't change strategy,
like you cannot build new business because it's too late. You don't have enough cash to build new businesses, right? You cannot make strategic moves,
right?
When restructuring professionals are brought in, it's more tactical moves, right? Which is like, what can we do? How can we cut our costs, right? How can we tweak few things? What are the low hanging fruits we can fix right now and get immediate results, right? Making strategic changes takes it's a long term in the view, right? So basically what we're doing, like if it's a multi-location store, so like, let's say 100 store like the retail company, you basically you look at like what stores are profitable, which ones are not. You go through analysis and you shut down the unprofitable stores, so that if there are cash generating stores, you can still pay all your bills and then make it a viable business again.
At least it's surviving, not under the water.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like now I'm a corporate restructuring expert. But let's hear, like, is there any, like, you don't have to name drop, like a story of like something like this, actual company, the craziest story for you.
Like the craziest story.
You don't have to name drop the company, but just something that you were working on, and then you were like, oh my God, this is just a memorable project that you worked on.
Okay.
It's probably a loaded question, but
yes, I can go. I can talk about it. You can cut it if you want to.
No, let's.
So we were hired by.
We're gonna get all the tea.
We were hired by this hedge fund that had bought the debt of this distress, like the company, and then
bought the debt one.
This company had a debt with a bank, and the banks sold the debt because they didn't want to deal with this company to a hedge fund, and the hedge fund had hired us, and the company filed for bankruptcy, and then I there was already the whole thing in there, and then they brought me in that last minute. And then they said, okay, you have to go to this, this place in like in the Midwest to go assess the situation, right? So I walk in. This was a restaurant chain, right? So I walk in there, and then it's just myself, like my team was not there yet, and then the senior accountant there, like, okay, he was trying to buy time, they didn't want to share the information.
A senior accountant in the
company, in the So
Wait,
okay.
So basically the client.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So hedge fund has the debt, right? But the company is what went through the bank, is going through the bankruptcy.
Oh, the company that bought the debt from the hedge fund.
No. So the hedge fund bought the debt of a company. Like let's say there's a company A, and the company A has a debt, right? So but the hedge fund bought the debt. So the hedge fund is the lender now. Right, so I'm representing the hedge fund, and I went to talk to the company. So this guy takes to their restaurant, and then and then starts slow walking, right, buying time and not providing information. It's very smooth, right? And then I get the biggest stomach ache, right?
Wait, what do you mean by like?
I got really, really sick after eating that.
Okay.
So I was like, did they do something to me?
Oh my god! I mean,
and then and then one day passes. The next day, my colleague came, and then they're still not sharing the information. And then at that time, my colleague goes and tells the CEO, hey, you guys, it's not your own company anymore. You guys. Have a lot of debt with the hedge fund, and they're technically the owner.
Yeah.
So you have to cooperate with us and share the information. And he starts throwing F-bombs and kicks us out, both of us, from the office. Yeah.
Such game.
Of course.
Like how long was the whole?
It was like discussion. He threw like every single cuss words like for 2 minutes and like threw us out. And we're like packing our bags, right? So
in the Midwest,
yeah, in this office, and then and then my friend they starts calling our attorneys, and the attorneys they're just hanging there. I know it's very uncomfortable, but just hanging there. And then I think the CEO also called their attorney, and then he comes in, and he's like nothing happened. Like, what do you guys need?
Right.
It was so weird,
Funny.
And then and they started sharing some information, but I've been in corporate restructuring. It's weird, you get into situations like this.
So those situations, I mean, heated situations.
Yeah.
Are they like normal audit clients or some company? Is it is it usually like that, or is it just?
It's not always, but I've had other situations like this. But in corporate restructuring, it's a hard job to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also meet a lot of really good people, and then you're in the trenches and you make really good friends because you're in the trenches with friends.
Trauma bonding. Exactly. That's the word.
Yeah.
So you pretty much spent about exact years that happened, about 2005 to hit 2019, somewhere in corporate restructuring, right? So you have a really good idea on what corporate restructuring looks like. On just everything about it. So if someone that's watching wants to get into corporate restructuring, who would be what qualities would he need, or who would be best fit for it?
So starting at a younger age, I would say they will need people who are good financial modelers, but it's also you need to they'll look for people who can stay calm under these very stressful situations, right? You don't have 2 weeks to do the cash flow modeling, right? So you may have 2 days,
Oh yeah,
so you need to look at incomplete information and be able to model and then be able to make a decision, right? And then also, in other jobs, there might be time for your seniors or your senior managers to review your work. In corporate restructuring, you don't have that much time, right? So you need to be someone you can be trusted by your team.
And how do you show that you're someone that's trusted? That's a loaded question again.
I think it's just connections, right? You need to be able to connect with the people, So when I joined in the corporate restructuring group, right? So initially, I didn't do this hardcore turnarounds, and then we did more the more administrative bankruptcy kind of work, right? and or help the creditors. And then like and I started like making connections with the people who did these kinds of work.
Right.
And then if people look at me, they say like, you're not really like a corporate restructuring guy. You don't look like a jerk. You look like
the stereotype.
Yeah, you look like a really nice guy. You have a friendly smile, But what they told me is like, but you get the job done. You get the job done, without being a jerk, And like they said, that's really great because you can make people comfortable, and get the information, keep people calm during the stressful situation, and then get things done, right? Sometimes you have to be a jerk.
Right. Have you been? You don't have to say. I was just.
Yeah, I will not answer that. But it's that. I think it's really important to have empathy doing this kind of work because you've been put into this unfair situation. You're good people, but at the same time, things need to be done, and it's a hard job. You have to work late hours.
What's like typical hours like working in corporate restructuring? Because IBMA, I hear like 70, 80, 100 hours. What's it like in
you have to work those hours. Yeah.
Wow.
And depending on the situation, right? So early on, depends on every single case, but like in certain cases you have to work like 60, 80 hours a week.
So you did corporate restructuring until 2019, and what after that?
So after the 2008 recession, like by 2016.
Wait, before we move on, I have a different question.
Yeah.
You were in Deloitte for 19 years. So Oiliku, I don't know if it's a tradition, but I see it very often, is people only stick with their jobs for maybe a couple of years and then they move on to another, then a couple of years, then jump into another one. So what made you stay there for 19 years, which is a long time?
So, the first 4 years was audit, right? So I moved on to something else. But corporate restructuring was like an exciting world. The projects were fun. Like, maybe I'm weird. But like going through this, the stress situation was, that excited me.
Right.
And then also there's a component of BD that comes with it because, it's the same companies don't go bankrupt twice, or sometimes they do, but but there's always you keep on having to find new clients, and I like that, the aspects of the job as well. And I just loved it, until like the 2016, 17, when the economy was flying at it was growing so fast at that time, right? So there are very few bankruptcies. Things were really slow. I tried to do some M&A, but I was like, this is the time I should just leave Deloitte if I want to do something else. And that's when I joined WilliamsMarston. The good thing with WilliamsMarston was it was a small firm at that time, but they didn't do corporate restructuring, but I could use the same skill sets I had, but help their companies, their clients in the strategic finance roles. And what that means is most of their clients were private equity backed clients, so I was helping them these clients through M&As and transformations. Which means if you had to I'll just give you an example. There are situations where their CFO got fired or their VP of finance got fired for a certain reason, or they left, right? So, they'll bring someone. It takes time to hire a good person, right? So it may take 3 months to hire. Right. Now, in the interim, they'll bring someone, right? So, a consulting firm to just to man the ship, right? And but also do some process improvements, and that's what I did. Came there as a finance executive for an interim period, and then led the finance group, and then also did some process improvements with the month-end close or with their FP&A or the reporting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's 25 years of your journey.
Yeah.
So you're 25 years, right? I want to hear your best moment. Your 25 years of finance journey, or your best moment.
My best moment. All right.
If you have to just choose one.
Couple. Like the
We have time. We can reheat the cookies.
So I would say like when I was in Deloitte, like this is like 2 or 3 years down the road, like they would pick like a one person to go to work in Australia for 3 months. And then I got an opportunity 1 year, and that was phenomenal.
When was this?
This was in, I think, around 2003 or 2004. I've forgotten now, but it was, that was one of the best times of my life. So like I was making the U.S. salary, living in Australia, and they kept me in this apartment where the ex-prime minister of Australia used to live. This huge like luxury building, like Millennium Tower, right? So with a Sydney Harbour view, for me as maybe 25, 26-year-old living this life, right? So it was amazing.
The Australian dream.
Yeah.
So that was one of those experiences. And you said you had a couple.
Yeah, and then when I was working with Marston, with the help of this client through the startup company, and then it was a Japanese-owned company, and then we did a really great job, and they said, okay, can you please go to the mothership and help them out too?
Mothership as in
the headquarters.
Oh yeah,
headquarters. So I went to Japan for 3 months. And then it was such an incredible experience. I would say, if you get a chance to go international, in one of these, the gigs, take it.
Okay, I probably might not have a chance to do that. So, if you want to talk a little bit more about the experience, why was it so phenomenal?
In Australian situation, it was the lifestyle, right? So I got exposure to
Australia is I think it's very straightforward. You know, you were in one of the best luxury buildings where the prime minister lived. But I guess I'm more interested on Japan.
Yeah.
To experience things.
So Japan experience was a little different because I first of all I had to convince my wife to come with me, right? So she's Japanese, but she was early. She was just starting this, work in this new company. So she was I don't want to go.
Right.
But we had to make some compromises so that she could come with me. I was able to bring my daughter with me.
Wow.
So she went to, for her, it was good for her to learn about Japanese languages and get cultural exposure to Japan, right? But also, Japan is such a amazing country, right? So the food is awesome. People are so nice, right? And it's just clean. And Boston is a very clean city for the US, right? So the first night we came back was you're
oh, why is this so dirty?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, wow.
Yeah, and the food is so good, right? And we got an opportunity to travel during weekends, around the country. They have this thing called onsen bath, which is have you heard of onsen bath?
Onsen bath.
Yeah, so in Japan, there are all these hot springs,
the hot springs, but
so they're usually in the hilly areas, right? So and they're a little bit away from the city, and this small hotels are called ryokan, right? So they're Japanese style, they have Japanese beds, right? So with the tatami mattresses, and then you go there, right? So the idea is you go there for a hot springs bath, right? So it's really nice. And then and then also you get dinners and the breakfast that comes with it, and then and these dinners are amazing. All these different sushi and sashimis, and then all the different tempuras. So many different kinds of stuff. I would say that one of these meals, right? So like omakase meals in Boston, right? So that meal in Boston will alone cost $300, right?
Yeah, so, it's expensive.
Yeah,
it's expensive.
You are getting this this amazing dinner, a similar type of breakfast,
right?
Onsen bath, and staying overnight, right? For cheaper than like
the whole omakase
meal in Boston,
Wow.
This whole experience, like, it's so, but I don't know, because of maybe because of exchange rates, and it's so much more affordable right now to go to Japan.
Right.
So like
wow. When's the next time you're going?
I really, actually, you brought this up. Actually, I'm going back to Japan in next few weeks in the beginning of June.
Wow.
So,
what's the first destination?
So we're going to Tokyo, and then and then we're going to Hokkaido. So the backstory, and there's a story behind this too. My wife left her corporate job, and then when I met her
Deloitte.
Deloitte, right? So this is 25 years ago. She wanted to do something with the food business back then. She was looking for culinary school back then, right? And then it was just hard to jump into something, right? Something new. It's scary, right? And then year ago, she quit her job and then started working.
From Deloitte or
no?
But anyway, long story.
Long story. Let's look at it. So she left her job and then she started jumping into this food business. She started as a licensed kitchen, a certified licensed kitchen, and she does a lot of customized cakes for birthdays, weddings, and baby showers and stuff like that. She also sells her cookies in in the Lucas Market and Tremont in South End, and the farmers market. That different lines, several lines of businesses, but to cut short. But her
Petit Sakura. So that was 1 year ago.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So this has been less than 1 year. This started in August last year.
Wow.
But her vision is to we travel a lot. We have our daughter late, but we travel a lot. And then she's really really inspired by the French cooking and baking, and she loves the Japanese cooking, of course. So Petit Sakura is the French Japanese inspiration. The Japan has its own the baking traditions. There are certain unique items like castera and matcha chiffon cakes and certain things. So my wife does some of that, but she wants to go to Japan, experience that authentic the culture, the food culture, get into and also take some classes about Japanese baking, so that she can bring some of these traditions and cultures to Boston.
So that's why you guys are going to Japan.
Yes. Yep.
Wow. Well, # Petit Sakura, guys. If you want a quick promo, I guess we're on it. So quick promo video. If you guys ever want to order customized cakes
or cookies or macarons or cupcakes, please visit petitsakura.com or Instagram at Petit Sakura Boston. Thank you.
I have a few questions, but we're reaching towards the end. This one's a little controversial. Not controversial. I think it's just it might be a sensitive topic. So if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. But let's talk about, you married a Japanese woman, right?
Yep.
And I think cross-cultural marriages is usually not that. I think now it's more acceptable, but Titibala, it's very rare and it's not a thing, right? So I kind of want to. If it's sensitive, we can skip it. But
of course, this is a good question. Of course, there's pros and cons to everything, and then cross-cultural marriage or relationships is hard, right? So when I first started dating Kyoko, I don't know if it's still like that in Nepal, but at the time, I was not willing to, talk to my parents about my relationship with Kyoko. And that was a big contention between us, right? So, Kyoko's parents live in, suburbs of Boston, right? And then she introduced me to her parents a week after we started dating, right? So,
a week after?
Yes. Right? That's the culture here, right? So, but for many, many months, I was not willing to talk to my parents about our relationships. And, Kyoko's hey.
what are you doing?
Yeah. Are you just playing with me? Are you serious? Like what is the problem? Right? So she's Asian, but she grew up here, so she didn't have that
it's like
understanding.
The American culture, right?
Yeah,
it's still a little influenced by American culture, but I think Nepali culture is. How would you put it?
So like I think I introduced Kyoku to my uncle first, actually, in the U.S. Right. So and then I told my mom after that. So I just wanted to see if my strategy was that if my parents got pissed off, at least my uncle said, "Hey, she's a good girl," yeah. So and then of course my mom was not happy at the beginning, but like later, she really loves Kyoko, and I'll tell this. I don't know if I have time, but
no, we have a lot of time. We have a lot of time.
My grandparents, right? So my parents were really concerned about grandparents, how will they take it, right at that time. And then the first time Kyoko visited Nepal, I think we visited in 2005, I think. Earlier than that, maybe a couple of years after we started dating, we went to visit Nepal. She really wanted to come to Nepal. Oh my God, my grandma, right? So it's just so touching to me. She was just holding the Kyoko's hand, and then just and she bonded so well. In Nepal, we have all this. You want to stick to your community, and then and my grandma would say the Kyoko is Japanese, but of our same community.
Wow.
I think it's it's uncomfortable at first, but I think it's human nature. Once you connect, I think you can go past that barrier. I think.
What about language barrier?
Language. So my parents are pretty decent with the English. They're very comfortable with it, so it definitely helped. With the grandparents, of course, they would speak a couple of words. The Kyoko would speak a couple of words in Nepali, but somehow they communicate. And I think it's innate in human nature to communicate. I remember when Aika went to Japan, her cousins in Japan, the Kyoko still has cousins in Japan, they don't speak any English, and Aika don't speak any Japanese, right? And that my daughter,
your daughter, yeah.
But now she speaks some Japanese now, but at that time she didn't speak any Japanese. But somehow they communicate with kids and play together. I think we're able to communicate as human beings, even though it's not the same language.
So even though if someone was to be in a cross-cultural relationship, I think it's still doable.
Yes, definitely. But there's one more hurdle you have to come across. I think communication. Communication is the key, right? There's some cultural aspects. You still have to come across a hurdle, but there's other benefits too.
I'm a little scared because I think if my parents watch this, they're gonna be like, "Why are we asking all these questions about cross cultural? What's going on?" Go on. So I'm just to divert the Gauri, right? But another question I wanted to ask, because I asked you what was the best moments of the finance career, right? What was the most challenging?
Most challenging.
25 years, man.
25 years. Some of my engagements in corporate restructuring were really hard. It was difficult from professionally as well as personally as well, because you're working so much and making difficult decisions. There's one engagement we were working so much. I gained 20 pounds.
What?
Yeah.
So
I don't think I have the picture. So there's a picture of me. So this company had made the ID of me, and I had to take a picture. I looked so fat in the picture, and that became an inspiration for me to lose weight and live a healthy lifestyle.
Wow. So that was the most challenging.
Yeah, like the way our lifestyle was, we would work like the 16 hours a day, and then we'd go
16.
Yeah, and then we'd go eat a steak dinner at like at midnight, at the fan, because that was the only reward we had, right? So, is have a nice dinner, right? So, expensive dinner, and then with and then have a drink, right? And then next morning the same thing happens. Next morning the same thing. You work so much, and then it's repeated.
And then it's a repetitive cycle.
So it was a very unhealthy lifestyle for me, and I don't think I want to do that again.
Wow. And that was your journey from Nepal Vato.
Yeah.
So if for people that's watching, they might be incoming students, undergrads, early in their professional life.
Yeah.
If you could give them one or a couple pieces of advice, what would it be?
So I'm going back to my job search process, right? So Shrestha, you introduced me to many Nepali, young professionals and students, through your events. And
hashtag NSA Boston. If you guys don't know what it is, it's a platform we created so we can connect Nepali students, professionals, and executives. Ashish Shrestha attends these events and helps younger professionals.
And it's an amazing event. Shrestha has done an incredible job.
Okay.
But I was seeing a lot of many Nepali students in the same boat I was in now, 25 years down the road, right? So it's the spring semester, you're graduating in a few months, and then you still don't have landed a job, and and the system, the way it works in the US is that, hey, you have to start looking for a job the first semester in your grad school, right? Or by sophomore year, you start looking for internships, and and it was really disheartening to see that the schools had not done that for them. I think it's very unfair.
Yeah.
I can understand it 25 years ago in a liberal arts school, but when you have students, I think they have a responsibility to guide students through the job processes, and because that's the ultimate goal, right? So, so schools were not doing that, and then and then there's not there's always, like me, you can always find jobs, right? There are always this situation, so don't get disheartened. But it's difficult, right? So it's always good to start your job search
early,
right? 2 years.
Oh, 2 years early. So
2 years early, right? So you can do internships. If you're doing in master's program, MBA, I would say you start looking for start meeting your potential employers, attending job fairs. Your first semester, I think.
Oh, first semester, May.
Yeah, if you're an MBA,
MBA,
you'll do. But obviously, it doesn't hurt you.
So okay, let's actually make this a case study, right? But if someone was to start their career in undergrad Sparta, and you were the employer, how would you guide them to make sure that they have the best result or get a job the fastest? Or what are the exact steps that they should do that might help them the best?
I'm of the firm believer that attitude counts, right? So you can always learn skill sets, but you cannot learn attitudes, right? If you can reflect that through your resume, through your the interviews, through your connections with the people, I think that helps a lot. And then also being proactive, right? So if you're proactive in job searching, you're probably proactive in or work too, right? So you're a proactive person. So I think if you can demonstrate that hey, you're looking for you'll be graduating in 2 years, but if you're looking for internships, your first semester, that shows something. You're different. You are
proactive.
Exactly.
So that way,
and if you have an internship, if you start looking for a job in the fall semester, right, and then if you land in the summer internship, you're almost guaranteed a job by the time you graduate in 2 years' time.
Wow.
Right. So, and then also like a lot of companies do, especially large companies, they don't do ad hoc hiring. It works in cycles, right? So like for example, if you're hiring for September, they'll start hiring a year ahead time.
Like the Big Four is the state Deloitte.
Exactly. Right, so they start hiring a year ahead, right? And the same thing works for internships too. They'll start hiring like many months ahead of the internship date. So so like if you miss that boat, it's really hard to
jump back on it.
Jump back on it.
Now let me flip the script.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you could go back in time and change one or two things to do differently, what would it be?
Two differently. So. You always ask me all these difficult questions like that.
Good questions.
Yes. So lately I'm taking a break. I'm really inspired by what Kyoko is trying to do with the baking business, and I've been helping her a lot with like with like marketing and finance, right? And then it's been a very rewarding experience for me.
Right.
This is different than what I did for 25 years ago, 25 years, right? For example, marketing, right? There's so much data, there's so much stuff to do, and then you can see the immediate, like the results as well.
Right.
Right. So sometimes I think about did I do the wrong profession? Should I have done something different like that? And then, but like, you can, this country is amazing that you don't have to stick to the same thing. Like, you can always switch careers and like that. I think I may have, if I've known this, like may have gone more business track and more operations, more marketing than the finance. Because I'm just loving it. There's so many challenges, like the cookie business or cupcake business. It's not a new business, right?
Yeah, it's been
so many people do it, But like but how do you sell them? There's so many problems. Like how to go to market. Like the Google. People find a lot of business to Google, right? So, but like there's also SEOs. Like how do you promote yourself? How do you sell to people? And I find that as a challenge. And then I love problem solving, and then I've been trying to solve those problems, and I'm loving it.
Wow, Ashish, this was a really, really good conversation.
Thank you.
And we are at the end of the podcast. Toro, we have a ritual now. So basically, what we do is towards the end of the podcast, we do a rapid fire round. So I'm gonna ask you like maybe 6, 7 questions that are it's gonna be fast. Like you gotta be like, okay, answer. Simple questions.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Number 1, best Nepali restaurant in Boston.
Ela.
One thing you miss the most about Nepal.
People.
One food you love but can't find in the US.
I think you can find everything in the US.
Diplomatic answer. Okay. Number 4, favorite Nepali festival to celebrate in US.
Tihar.
Why?
Because like usually I get together with my family. My brother and sisters live far away.
So if your friends or family ever visited you in Boston, what's the first place you're gonna take them to?
I'll take them to the North End.
Why?
Because it's such a unique part of Boston. With the small, just narrow streets, like it reminds me of Nepal a lot.
That is true, actually. Yeah. Best current Nepali artist.
Sushant Casey.
Wow! Wow, I did not expect that. Okay. What is it?
So I didn't know about him until I visited Nepal, like a couple of months ago, and then like my cousins introduced me, and then apparently he went to Burlington High School too. So yeah, so I've listened to his songs lately.
What about best Nepali song for homesick days?
Nepali song. I've not listened. Bardadi.
Ashish, you're a hardcore Sushant PC fan.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. First Nepali word or phrase you would teach your non-Nepali friends? Can't be namaste.
Timur Nankil.
That was a good one. And that is a wrap, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in with SKS Media. If you want to have more guests like Ashish Dai, who's going to share their stories and insights with y'all, please like, comment down below, and subscribe.
Petit Sakura.
Oh, Petit Sakura. If you guys want cakes as well, Petit Sakura.